raised in the southern part of Missouri, born in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and spent my childhood there. And in my early 20s, I ended up, through a series of circumstances, I moved to Nashville to pursue the music career. So, grew up in a musical family. My father was a guitar player. He played bluegrass music, loved bluegrass music. It was the only kind of music that existed to him. So, and then my mother, she sang and played accordion, and actually grew up playing a lot of music at church when I was a kid. Well, the reason I got into guitar playing to begin with, it was when I was about probably 10 years old. I heard this guitar player, Chet Atkins, and when I first heard him play, I knew that it had to be two different guitar players, and I was completely fascinated with his playing when I found out it was just one man doing all the rhythm and the melody and everything at the same time. I'm like, how in the heck? So I was on a pursuit to become Chet, like thousands of other guitar players. And I remember my father, he knew I was so focused on the guitar and wanted to be a guitar player. And he told me one day, he said, if you will learn to play this one particular Chet Atkins song, I will buy you an electric guitar. Well, it took me about 2 days, and I sat there, dropped the needle on the Motorola monophonic record player that my mom and dad had at the time on this Chet Atkins record I had, and I just continually went after it until I mastered the thing and had it down. This was like about a Wednesday. By Friday, he needed to have take me to the guitar store and buy me a guitar. So when I moved to Nashville, I was kind of an exception to the rule as far as musicians go. When I moved here, I already had a gig waiting for me here. So I had been to a concert in Central Illinois, in Lincoln, Illinois, as a matter of fact, to see this group, the Imperials. Long story short, I found out they were looking for a guitar player, and I went up and auditioned afterwards, and so they hired me, and that's how I moved here. So I had a gig waiting for me when I got here, and then from there, I just got thrown into a lot of different musical situations. Started doing some recording work, and started getting a reputation for that, and so through the years that has snowballed, and the session life has been pretty much my thing through the years now. Some of the most special artists that I've worked with were people that, when I was a kid, were my heroes. For instance, Glenn Campbell. Back in 1991, I had the opportunity to play on one of his records, and I was just, at that time I'd played on a lot of different records for a lot of different folks, but Glenn, because when I was a kid, man, he was just like God to me. I mean, he was a pop star, and Wichita Lineman was the first single that I ever bought as a kid, and getting to work with Glenn was absolutely a fantastic moment. And since that period of time, I ended up working on 6 different record projects with Glenn. There were others too that I remember one time B.J. Thomas who has that, like Glenn, has his iconic sound and his vocals, and I just remember playing on this one song we did in the studio, and B.J. standing right next to me singing, and I'm just like playing, I'm going, oh my gosh, that's that iconic voice that I'm hearing, And there's been some other surreal kind of experiences too. Working on a Kenny Loggins project, walking into the studio one morning, and I find myself standing between Kenny and Michael McDonald, who was guesting on the record, and then have Kenny to turn around to Mike and say, "Man, have you heard this guy's solo project? This is fantastic." I'm like, bench me. So anyway, it's been a great run and a great time I've had through the years working with a lot of different artists. Amy Grant is one of my favorite people. Just a sweetheart of a person. Vince Gill, her husband, great man. Love working with him every chance I get. And once again, Michael McDonald, Kenny, work with Barry Manilow. Gosh, been a lot of different people I've had an opportunity to work with through the years, and very thankful. Once Amy Grant was going to do a concert for her mother's country club, which is about 500 women, and she had asked Chet Atkins to participate. And Chet just loved Amy. He would do anything she would ask at the time. So Amy actually asked me to play guitar for her on that particular event, and I was like so nervous because, I mean, that's the man. That was my guitar hero. And as it turned out, there was like 6 of us in a half circle, and we all took turns of playing a song. And of course beforehand, the day before I'd met Chet, and like every guitar player in the world, I just kind of drooled over the fact that he was my hero. And so when we were playing in the round, when it came my turn to play a solo piece, he's the one that ended up introducing me. And I remember very well what he said, because he said, "Well, this young feller sitting next to me right here said he learned to play the guitar by listening to my records. I guess we're getting ready to find out." So now in my mind's eye, my hands feel like they're jumping up and down like this, but I thought, man, I hope I can just hit the first note, and when I settled in and hit the first string, I thought, okay, maybe I'll be okay at this point, but that was quite an unnerving experience for me. I'm very proud to say that I have a daughter that's done quite well in the music business as of recent. My daughter, Natalie Hemby, is a songwriter. She's written a couple of #1 hits for Miranda and A Little Big Town, a couple of #1 hits for those people, and Lady Antebellum, she's written a #1 hit for those folks. Many songs recorded, Keith Urban, Toby Keith, and I'm just proud of that girl. Yeah, she's done very well. So my McPherson experience would be that I had seen other artists using these, and some friends of mine that played them, and I had picked up and played the guitars. I thought, my gosh, these things are excellent. So I just called Matt out of the blue one day and introduced myself, and we struck up a conversation, and one thing led to another, and now I'm playing McPherson guitars. They're just wonderful instruments. So I can't say enough good about these guitars. It's just Matt he just goes the extra mile on everything about these guitars. You're not going to find a better playing acoustic guitar ever. I mean, it's just the action on these things are so excellent. The way the necks are set with this carbon graphite, they're not going anywhere. It's just once they're there, they're there. The tone of these guitars are just impeccable. I was discussing with another session friend of mine one day about the tone of the guitars, and he made a great analogy. He said, "You know what? They really sound like what you do to a guitar after you EQ it and compress it in the studio. It's already there." So, and he was right. That's the way these guitars, they're just so exquisitely built and have such great tones to them. And they play like a dream from top to bottom, from the nut all the way up past the heel here. You're going to get something that plays in tune, and the action is just so superb from top to bottom. I just can't say enough good about them. There's wonderful instruments.